Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Spore coming to you to talk about some Warhammer 40k. I said I was going to start making Warhammer content, so this is the beginning of it all. And it took me a little while to figure out a format of how I want to do it, and I've decided that I'm starting with Warhammer 40k because, well, I put up a vote. That's what everybody wanted to vote was Warhammer 40k. I mean, a whole whopping few people that watch me. And I decided, okay, Warhammer 40k, and then the next video will be something from Age of Sigmar, and so on and so forth. I don't know if I'll be able to make 2 videos a week on this stuff, or if I'll be able to make 1 video a week, because I do have editing and all that fun stuff to do as well, plus I'm a busy person. But anyway, so I've decided what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take something from 40k that I absolutely love and find interesting, and I'm going to talk about it. We're going to go into its background, its lore, and if it has a presence on the tabletop, we're going to go into the tabletop side of it, because what good is talking about all this if I'm not going to talk about the tabletop side of it? Because the tabletop side is the most interesting part, if you ask me, outside the fluff. So anyway, without further ado, let us begin. The first 40k video, and no, I'm not going to start this off with, I was there the day that Horus slew the Emperor. No, I'm not going to start this thing off like that at all. No. I'm going to start off my first 40k video just talking about a unit I absolutely think is cool and interesting, and that's going to be the Arco-Flagellants. Not to be confused with flatulence, not that. No. Arco-Flagellants. This is probably one of the most disturbing, and I mean disturbing things in the 40k universe that you could possibly read. Okay, maybe not the most disturbing, but on the list of disturbing-ass things in 40k, it's somewhere in the top tier list. Somewhere. It's in there. Maybe one day we'll go into looking at the most disturbing stuff, but this is definitely in there. Okay, Arco-Flagellation, as it's called, is a process. Now, this comes from the Codex Adeptus Sororitas. It's a particular unit they use in there, and yeah, it's pretty wicked. It's a horrifying thing. So let's just go ahead and get into this. The Arco-Flagellation, the process of it, it's a form of penitence that's administered by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and it's appointed by the Ecclesiarchy. So, for all of you noobs out there that are unfamiliar with most of the lore for 40k, the Ecclesiarchy is like the Church of the Emperor. You know, it's the church, it's the holiness of the Imperium of Man. You know, that's what the Ecclesiarchy is, and they have their own militant orders and all of that fun stuff. They're pretty fucking crazy. Okay, they're just crazy. You know, they're zealots. They're religious and nuts, you know? I mean, they don't call the Sisters of Battle the nuns with guns for no reason. Let's be serious. So, this is administered by the Adeptus Mechanicus. The AdMech, as most of us like to call it, they are the ones that hold all the secrets to creating technology, building technology, making new tanks, and all the mechanical stuff. You know, they worship the machine god and all this other weirdness. Yeah, they're a whole nother ball game, and we'll get into them another day. Let's just leave it at that, okay? Now, this is actually a punishment. It's not it's a penitence. It's a punishment that's done to criminals and heretics alike, and it doesn't warrant, well, you know, execution right away. I mean, it's, you know, if you're a heretic or a criminal that did something egregious enough to warrant, you know, being turned into a servitor or executed, but you're not on that, you're not where you need to be. If you could still be some use to the Imperium of some way, Arco-Flagellation is a part of where you could go. I mean, let's just put it this way. Humanity, people are a dime a dozen in the Imperium of Man, and you're not actually a human. You are a cog in the machine. You're just kind of there to serve. I mean, you're another fucking number for the system and for the machine, and if you have a purpose to serve, that's it. And if you have no purpose to serve, well, I feel sorry for you. But everyone serves a purpose in the Imperium of Man, and it doesn't matter who it is. And if you are a heretic, now in this case, a heretic is basically anybody that said, I don't like the Emperor that much. Yeah, you're a heretic for saying that. And that does warrant execution in some form, or Arco-Flagellation. Now, Arco-Flagellation is a wonderful, wonderful process, and we're going to go into how this process works, and it's not for the faint of heart, okay? It's really, really not. So let's move on. This process involves a series of mental reconditioning. So, brainwashing, and just kind of working the gears there a little bit, moving the wires around a little bit, just making the brain think a little differently there. More towards being violent, psychopathic, and insane and crazy, and a little bit on the lobotomized side of things too as well. It involves, chopping off the limbs. I mean, they might just cut off a leg here, a foot there, a couple of toes. Maybe they'll just cut off the fingers or the arm, or fuck it, just replace the entire arm from the shoulder on down. Hell, they might even just replace part of your body in general, or even a leg. The thing is all of that is cut off and replaced with all sorts of fun little doohickeys like pneumatic claws and power flails and other weird, interesting, sharp cutting objects, an egg beater, sometimes a toaster oven. Fun, interesting things, And there's also these little drug injection systems put into the backs or put on them, it just so they can stimulate them a little bit and make them a little bit more crazier in the head than they've already made them. And did I mention that during this entire process, the person is alive, awake, and fully conscious of what the hell is going on? Don't get more grimdark than that. It's pretty horrifying, to say the least. There is a excerpt from one of the books that goes into it. It looks at the process from the perspective of the person having the process performed on them. It's pretty damn scary. Maybe I'll do a little reading of it either on my horror channel or on here one day for you all. But it's pretty horrifying. It's fucking scary. So anyway, all of this is literally to create an unstoppable force of destruction. That is quite literally what it is. They are MODOKs. They are mechanized organisms designed only for killing. That's it. Quite literally. End of it right there. They do nothing more, nothing less. Now, when they're not being deployed on the battlefield, you got to keep them calm. You got to keep them happy and chill. So they're kept in a bit of a stasis period. And during the stasis period, they're literally projecting hymnals of the Emperor and images of saints, the Emperor, and all this holy stuff right into the head meat, just like right into the brains, and that's just keeping them happy and calm and quiet before they get released into battle. When it's time to release them and let them loose, whoever is commanding and controlling them, it's usually a preacher, priest, could be a canonist, dogmata, something like that. They just awaken them by saying a trigger word. And I'm not kidding, that's what it says in the book. A triggered word. So, To get them to start becoming unstoppable, crazy, psychopathic killing machines, they gotta get triggered first. Some of my old followers here and fans will get a kick out of that one. But anyway, so once the trigger word is said, these guys are released into the fray of their enemies, of the Ecclesiarchy, or, well, the Sisters of Battle, whatever. And these things are so pumped full of combat drugs and so fucking loony and lobotomized that then they're focused on one thing. Kill, 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 and kill some more. They can't feel any pain whatsoever. So they don't give a shit. You can shoot them, you can blow them up, you can hit them, punch them, kick them. They don't care. They're just gonna keep coming towards you. They do typically die in the end of a battle. Like, during the process of the fighting, they overexert their bodies so far and beyond that they typically just die. But some of them survive. No joke, some of them actually survive. And this is the best part. Those that survive, they're hailed as awesome warriors, and they get put back to sleep, they get calmed down a little bit, and I don't know how you calm down a Arco-Flagellant, but they calm them down, get them all nice and happy, and they save them to be released in more combat situations. Those guys are called the Endurance. And they get stronger, they learn more, they get better, faster, tougher. Ugh. These things are terrifying. They really are. And believe me, when I get to the tabletop side, they're even more horrifying on the tabletop. I promise you that. So, these things are typically deployed by the Inquisition for the most part. Inquisitors tend to like bringing them along as little shock troops to throw them out there and to kill things, when they got to get some work done. Especially if they're not worried about friendly enemy casualties. I mean, sometimes those damn civilians just get in the way, you know what I mean? I mean, you got to do something about them. But, they're all heretics anyway, okay? Come on. Ain't nobody perfect in the Imperium of Man. At least one person. Everyone has said something bad about the Emperor at least once and committed the horrible sin of being a heretic. So, they're absolved that way, okay? That's why we get around killing the civilians, okay? So anyway, the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas, these ladies, they like to use them too. Some orders more than others, mainly the Valerius Heart. They like to use them the most out of the rest of the group, but, it is what it is. And like I said, they're more like shock troops, you just kind of, you throw them out there, and they run forward, kill everything in their path, and they're going to die, so it doesn't really matter. But they're at least going to do their job and move on from there. So let's get into the tabletop use of these bastards. Because these bastards are freaking horrifying. The process of making them is horrifying. It's probably some of the most grim, dark, crazy stuff I've ever heard of. So what are they on the tabletop? Like, why would you put these things out there? What do they do, So let's find out. Let me get me some water here. Yes, I'm drinking water from a popcorn cup. And I don't care. Alright. So, Arco-Flagellants. Now, you can arm these things, excuse me, let me start that over. You can field these things from a minimum of 3 to 10. Now, if you're going to field them as 3 or to 10, it's 13 points a model. So let's see here. 13 points times 3, you're talking 39 points for 3 of these bastards. Maybe if you decide to add an extra 5, that's plus 5, you're looking at 44 points total. That's for 3. Now, the extra 5 is to bring yourself a endurant. Those ones that have more experience and they like to kill things more than the other group, the ones that've gotten more kills in their kill count. Yeah, 44 points for those 3. So let's say you want to bring 10. Alrighty then. 13 times 10, you're looking about 130 points for the unit. Go ahead and add 5 to that, 135. Not bad. It's actually pretty sick, pretty nasty. Trust me, when we crunch the numbers some more here, you're going to see why 135 and 39 points is actually not that bad. That's actually light for what these things can do. Okay? So, these things are armed with... Oh, okay. Let's go with their stats first. They've got a 7-inch movement, so they run a little bit faster than your average Sister of Battle, okay? They hit on 4s, so they're not hitting as good as the Sisters. The Sisters can hit on like 3+, I think. They have no ballistic skill, but that's because they don't have guns. They don't like guns. They don't use anything that shoots. They're all about the choppy. They want to be right there in the face of their enemy and just slicing and dicing. They don't care about guns. They have a strength of 4, a toughness of 4. They each have 2 wounds apiece, and they're a leadership 7 with a 7+ save. And we'll explain that in a little bit, which means they don't get a save, but they actually do. 7+ means you're not saving at all. That's all that means. So they have what's called Arco-Flails. Arco-Flails, they're melee weapons. Of course, we've already talked about that. They add 1 to the Arco's strength. So we're already like strength 4. So when they attack, they become a strength 5 attack. They have a -1 to AP. So they're going to subtract 1 from the save of whatever you hit with them. Unless that save can't be, negated in some way like demons. Demons are funky like that. And they only do 1 damage each. Here's the key part. Okay? If you look, Arcos have 2 attacks apiece. Okay? 2. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, you make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So, they have 2 attacks total. They get 2 more. So each one of these things has 4 attacks using that weapon. 4. We're going to crunch the numbers in a minute, and you're going to be like, oh my god. So, their abilities, they're zealots, meaning if they charge... Wait a minute. What happens if they charge? Let me find out in my handy-dandy book here. It's actually pretty funny what they do, because they're pretty sick, actually. They do something really, really cool. Let me see here. Arco-Flagellants. The Zealots. When resolving an attack made with melee weapons by these models, they get to re-roll their misses. Yeah, so when they swing to hit, they get to re-roll the miss. So, they each get 4 attacks. They hit on 4s, and you can re-roll any of the misses. That's ridiculous. Getting into it a little bit more, if you have an Ecclesiarchy Battle Conclave, if you take like a Imperial Priest or something like that, like a priest or a preacher, they can take these things with them, and it won't count as a slot towards your elites. So these guys already take up an elite slot. So your preacher and them would take up 1 slot for whatever it is on their force organization. They're berserk killing machines. Each time a model in this unit would lose a wound, you roll a d6. That's a 6-sided die for all you crazies out there that don't know what the hell I'm talking about. On a 5+, wound is not lost. Now, on a 5+, wounds just, they're good. Anytime they take a wound, you roll, I got 5, I'm good. That's the mortal wounds, too. Mortal wounds are what negates saves and stuff like that. Yeah. It's pretty mean. And then, of course, this unit cannot perform any actions because it's an instrument of pain and penance. But it's whatever on there. Now, why would you use these? So let's crunch the numbers really, really quick. Now, with including the fact of all the nasty shit these bastards do. And let's just say that we're going to have an Endurant in there, because an Endurant, the bearer who has 3 attacks at a streak characteristic of 5 instead. So, let's just say you bring 3 of these bastards, right? You got 3. They each have 4 attacks. Times that by 3. That's 12 attacks with this stuff. 12. And you can re-roll your misses. That's just 3 of these bastards for 40 points. It's pretty fucking mean. Now, for the next part of this, let's just look at the fact that they have 4 attacks apiece, and you brought 10 of these bastards. Yeah, gets really, really bad for them. You're talking 40 attacks with these fucking things. 40! 4 times 10. 40! 40! 41 if you bring an Endurant. And you re-roll your misses. This is literally you rolling 40 fucking dice for a unit of 10 of these things. I mean, granted, that's if they got into combat without taking wounds. And that's the other thing. 2 wounds apiece. Whatever these things get into combat with, they're likely going to shred the crap out of it. Whatever it is will be dead by the end of the turn or 2 turns. It's not going to end well for them at all. It's just not. So, yeah. Now, they only re-roll their wounds if they charged or were charged. That's one thing you got to remember about them. But by then, that charge is nasty already. And, unfortunately with them, they can't use, actions of faith and all that stuff. They lose a lot of the things that Sisters of Battle give, But, it's well worth taking. And this is why Arco-Flagellants are nasty, horrifying, even on the tabletop. And they typically get overlooked by some Sisters of Battle players out there because they're not Battle Sisters units. They are Imperial, cult-type units or whatever. They get a little overlooked a lot of the times. Some people forget they even exist. And when they do remember they exist and they see what they do, they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Those things are nasty. Now, back in 4th edition, which was the last time I played Sisters of Battle until 9th edition here, they were a lot nastier back then. They were even worse. Back then, they were you could only take 6 in total in a unit, and once you triggered them, because you had to move them up, and then you triggered them, they would take wounds themselves, they would take themselves out over time, because anytime they rolled a 6, I think they took a wound. And they didn't have 2 wounds, they had 1 wound. But they had a shit ton of attacks, and every one of those attacks was considered a power weapon, which meant back then was it negated your save. And you didn't have a save unless you had something like, invulnerable save or whatever, like what these guys have. Yeah. They were nastier back then, and they're still pretty nasty today. And I would definitely take them in a heartbeat or a New York minute. But anyway, these things, the best use for them is as they are, shock troops. You put them out there, you run them forward, you try to get them in combat as soon as possible, and they will shred whatever they come in contact with. And here's the other thing. Arcs of Omen, the boarding actions thing, where everything's more close quarters combat, and you're dealing with a lot more close combat and a lot of times. These things are perfect for running bordering actions. These things are sick. And, being at 39 points for 3, you could run multiples for a pretty good amount of points, and it wouldn't cost you much, especially since boarding actions are 500-point games, You want to make the most of every little unit you can bring. You don't want to go for a lot of quality. You want to go for some quantity, because your buddies or your opponents can outnumber you quite a bit. These things are sickening. I watched them kill a lot of bad things in Arcs of Omen stuff. I mean, boarding actions can be nasty utilizing these guys. But anyway, tell me what you all think about it. Tell me if you enjoyed this video. Tell me if you like all the stuff I did. Tell me if you play 40k and you use you use Arco-Flagellants. Tell me how you like to deploy them and utilize them in the game. Tell me all that stuff and, whatever. Check out the Discord. I think it's still linked down below. If not, I'll make sure it is. And you can look me up on Twitter at the Spore Spore 666 and other things and all that other stuff and whatever. I stream every Thursday where we just talk about random nonsense and everything and anything just for the fun of it. We don't even talk about just 40k stuff. We talk about all kinds of nonsensical stuff. That's every Thursday nights at 10 o'clock. So anyway, tell me what you all think. Leave a comment, leave a subscribe, click the fucking bell for notifications if you want. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hey, you thought I was going to say it, didn't you? No, I'll say my new catch line, which is, may the powers of chaos be